championship in the MPL locked up. The loser is going to drop down a bracket and have to fight another match to kick things off. What do you make of the matchup here, Luis? We've seen quite a bit of it this weekend.
Yep, this is a Adventures mirror. We've seen this go back and forth, as different players try to figure out which list is the best. I do think that Sam and his team have come across the best list overall. I think this Naya Adventures deck is favored against the Gruul or Jund Adventures, whatever you want to call the list that Arne Huschenbeth's team is playing. So I think that the pair of Giant Killers, those are among the cards that really make a difference in this matchup, and I do expect Sam to leverage those pretty nicely.
And there they are sitting in the hand here for Sam, so he's ready to roll with that. There's an Edgewall Innkeeper hitting the battlefield here. In fact, two of them, as the way is clear, Sam will not have a way to pick one of those off on end step here, as we often see a stomp coming down. Not only does he not have the stomp, but he wouldn't have the red mana source either, as he draws Tangled Florahedron for his draw step. Yikes, two Edgewall Innkeepers, no answer right now?
This is going to be a tough game for Sam if Arne can start leveraging those Innkeepers. They end up snowballing where you cast that Lovestruck Beast. It draws you two cards. Between that and your draw steps, you're going to find another adventure creature. And guess what that one's going to do? So
exactly,
we're going to see Arne pull further and further ahead if Sam doesn't find a way to kill those Innkeepers quickly.
Well, the writing's on the wall as far as the Lovestruck Beast coming down next turn. And it looks like Sam is content to just leave up Chop down here as he passes the turn back over. But yikes, this is a tough position here. Arne's going to get in with the two Innkeepers first.
And regardless of how transparent it is that Sam has Chop down, it's still pretty hard if you're Arne to resist playing that Lovestruck Beast. He could potentially kind of try to make the hero's play of just play a Jesper, a Sentinel, and a Den of the Bugbear. I wonder how the game plays out if he does that, because that does set up a Goldspan Dragon next turn while also wasting Sam's mana completely. And you can kind of already guess that Sam doesn't have a stomp in hand, because if he did, then he probably would have killed one of those Innkeepers right away.
Well, I'm really curious to see if Arne goes for that line. I mean, it's, with the information that he has available, it is not insane to do that. And he's going to do it. There's just a Sentinel going on the stack as well as the Bugbear, and he passes it back. And Sam Pardee has to just waste 3 mana. That is not a way to get ahead in the matchup.
Oh, awesome play from Arne. And it's the sort of thing that a lot of players wouldn't make that play, but I think it's going to turn out much better for him.
Wow. That was awesome stuff from Arne Huschenbeth. It's the little stuff like this that when you understand the matchup, you can see. And it's just a disaster here for Sam.
Because not only did Sam not use any of his mana last turn, now Arne, if he wants, can play a Goldspan Dragon and guaranteed get a hit plus a treasure off, and even if there's a Giant Killer coming.
Now, Sam did put something powerful on the battlefield himself. He put a Seeka's Chariot down. And, if that Goldspan Dragon's going to come in, he's going to really want to get Lovestruck Beast down as soon as possible. And here comes the dragon. Down to 14 goes Sam Pardee. And then he has to pass the turn back. But this does mean that Sam gets to crack in with the Chariot and get rolling on it. He also has Chop down to take care of this dragon. It's a lot riding on that Chariot, Luis.
Oh, yeah. The Chariot really is the only thing Sam's got going for him, because next turn, Arne's going to untap with double Innkeeper, an adventure creature to play, and 8 mana available between the treasures and the Sentinel and all that. So that's a lot. It's possible he misses and Sam can kind of fight back in here, but if Arne hits any other adventure creature, it's really going to spiral out of control so quickly.
See what he draws for the turn. It's Shatter Skull Smashing, but he's going to kick off with the Lovestruck Beast and see what he finds off of it. He's going to find 2 cards. Let's see what he hits. It's Seeka's Chariot and a Bone Crusher Giant.
Yeah, he did not miss here.
Yeah, he found a lot of business. He'll have access to 5 mana here to spend as he sees fit. Boy, both of those Edgewall Innkeepers just sitting on the battlefield indefinitely here for Huschenbeth has been so great.
I mean,
It's
how many
rare.
games have we seen where a player has an innkeeper survive and that player loses?
Oh, yeah. And that's just with one of them.
Right. So
Double Innkeeper seems nearly insurmountable. I mean, Arne, for example, here, he could just, stomp one of the creatures on the other side and cast Bone Crusher Giant, have a 4/4, a 5/5, and everything else, and draw 2 more cards. And that's just sort of your baseline play. These aren't even, the super upside that he could go for.
as long as you keep your innkeepers alive and drag the game on, you are going to win. Though that Bone Crusher Giant as a draw from Sam, that could stem the bleeding a little bit. Still going to be pretty tough here. I do think Arne may have cost himself a little bit by not putting that Bone Crusher into play like you said last turn, because now the way is going to be clear for the Chariot to attack once Sam casts this other Giant Killer.
Yeah, kind of interesting. He gave up on the 2 cards, and he's going to be punished with this stomp as well, so it'll be down to just 1 card when he actually casts it. Is his plan to just stomp the token that gets copied?
That would prevent 2 cats from existing, as it were. You could
Mhm.
also, if you wanted to, you could like double block the Chariot and stomp it, but that seems like a pretty bad way to go about things. So my guess is Arne is gonna keep up this stomp for whatever cat Sam targets with his Chariot.
Interestingly, Sam, of course, doesn't know about the Bone Crusher Giant in hand. And, while we can sit here and say, well, you should just Bone Crusher one of these Innkeepers, he may be thinking, if you had a Bone Crusher, you may have just played it. So it's kind of funny because he's actually going to Bone Crusher the Sentinel on the other side of the battlefield here.
Yeah, make it Arne either use a treasure or commit to doing something ahead of time. But it's not going to work out the way Sam is hoping once he sees the fact that Arne actually does have a Bone Crusher.
Huh. Is Sam just conceding to the Innkeepers, just saying, if you find a couple of more adventure creatures, I'm probably just not beating that at this point?
I think that Sam's thought here is that if Arne had more adventure creatures, A, he might have played them already, and B, maybe I can't even beat a stream of adventure creatures, so I shouldn't go too far to try for it.
Mm-hmm. And there it is. The stomp comes out, kills the targeted cat, so there will be no copy, and of course that cat's going to die as well. But he does get in and knock Arne down to 10. But now we're going to see the double Edgewall Innkeeper just take over this game. Bone Crusher Giant hits the battlefield. 2 more cards into hand here for Arne. Man, Sam would love to have one of those Innkeepers. Look at his adventure zone here. He's got double Giant Killer, Lovestruck Beast, Bone Crusher, and he even draws another Lovestruck Beast off the top. But these are just, your pedestrian 2-for-1s that you get off an adventure creature anyway.
I think Sam is going to need to kind of just put as much power on the board as possible, and then maybe try to leverage these Giant Killers to win the game with, and dominate combat. But it's going to be tough because Arne is already up 4 cards off of the 2 adventure creatures he's played, and with Shatterskull Smashing and Ranger class in hand, he's going to be able to generate a lot more value. Plus, he's not even come close to missing a land drop every turn, which, when you're not drawing a lot of extra cards, you'd be pretty unhappy to have 7 land, by turn 6 or whatever. But when you're drawing a bunch of extra cards, you love hitting land drops.
That's right. It gives him the ability to double spell, maybe even triple spell in a turn. Here comes Isika's Chariot. It's going to trade off for Arne's Isika's Chariot. But this time Sam did get to make an additional cat, and he's going to use up all of his mana, including playing the Tangled Floorhedron just as a land here after getting the Lovestruck Beast on the battlefield. So, Sam is being mana efficient here now and certainly adding a lot of power and toughness to the board, but this is kind of that classic pendulum situation that we've seen where now he has to pass the turn back over to Arne, and while Sam looked like he maybe pulled slightly ahead for a moment, Arne gets to now re-slam here. He adds 3 2/2s to the board in addition to Ranger class and Isika's Chariot before playing land and passing.
Yeah, we're leading onto a board stall, and part of the thing that really is unfortunate for Sam here is he's going to be forced to play these Giant Killers just because, in his Lovestruck Beast, because he just needs to get onto the board. But that means if he does top deck an Edgewall Innkeeper, now he's got nowhere to go with it.
Right. So it looks like from Sam's perspective that the tap ability on Giant Killer, especially since he has two of them, that's going to have to kind of carry him to victory here. And it doesn't look like it's going to work based on what we see in Arne's hand. He's got Edgewall Innkeeper, but critically he has a Shatterskull Smashing and a lot of mana available as well. So he could take down, these Giant Killers easily.
Yeah, imagine if Sam had drawn Edgewall Innkeeper this turn.
Oh, wow. He cast 3 adventure creatures, double Giant Killer, and a Lovestruck Beast. He would be off to the races, but it didn't happen, and now he is out of gas. As he passes the turn back over, there's a third Edgewall Innkeeper in hand for Arne Huschenbeth. He also has Jaspera Sentinel off the top of the library, and then that Smashing that we talked about as well. There's also the possibility for him to use Ranger class and all that mana to generate an advantage. Boy, he just love to see one more adventure creature here, though, right? Because that would, get him an additional 3 cards in hand and probably lock out Sam under most circumstances.
One more adventure creature does likely seal the deal for Arne. I'm still pretty interested in Shatterskull smashing down like the 2 Giant Killers just to make it so Sam can't get a foothold on this board.
Right.
Because right now, yeah, you maybe can't attack with the Seeker's Chariot unless you activate Ranger class, but it's not like Sam can attack you back. You've got just a bunch of cats and wolves to throw in the way.
So let's see if Arne decides he agrees with you, Luis, and wants to, there we go, chop down some Giant Killers. Shatterskull Smashing is going to send them both to the graveyard, and there's Fire Prophecy off the top of the library here for Sam Pardee. That is too little, too late. The damage has been done by these Innkeepers. The question is, can he use it in combat? Can he entice Huschenbeth into some type of triple block on the beast or something and break that up?
It's possible that if the natural triple block would be the 3/2/2s, but at this point, if you're going to do that, there's not really any drawback to putting Jaspera Sentinel in as well. So if Arne goes for the quad block there, then Sam's just going to once again trade down a Lovestruck Beast for 2 tokens. And then, he's got Gigantha he can pull out of his companion zone. He does have a pair of Layers of the Hydra, so he could at some point use those for something.
The quad block does happen here from Arne. He's going to throw 3 cats and the Sentinel in front, and that's going to lock in that trade. 2 cats for your Lovestruck Beast. Thank you very much. And as you mentioned, right now Sam has enough mana to both pay the tax for Gigantha and also put it onto the battlefield, so he gets another 5/5 back again. He's been playing a lot of power and toughness over the last few turns, but it just doesn't feel like that's what's going to get him ahead. Now, there's a forest off the top there for Huschenbeth. He still hasn't been able to find another adventure creature.
Sam is doing a good job since he had more power and toughness available of grinding things down. That Ranger class is going to start to become a threat. Arne, if he wants, could also leave up mana for Lair of the Hydra, but it's pretty inefficient to do that, and I think making the Ranger class investment is likely going to be a good way to progress from here.
Ranger class goes to the 2nd level there, and it looks like the Asika's Chariot's going to come in as well. Pick up a +1/+1 counter.
Yeah, the Ranger class means it can get by the Gigantha, so now Sam is going to go ahead and just trade some cats for it.
Yeah, he's going to trade off 2 cats. So similar trade to what we just saw. It did, however, make an additional wolf token as a 2/2, so that worked okay for Arne.
Arne does have to watch out here. Sam does have a 5/5 in play, so Arne may choose to leave up Lair instead of using Ranger class.
That's what he's going to do. There's a Asika's Chariot off the top of the library for Sam. He can't ask for much more than that.
No, that's one of your higher impact cards.
So first things first, though, get that big, beautiful elk in the red zone. Gigantha slamming. Huschenbeth down to 10. And here comes Lair of the Hydra. And he can trade his Lair for the Gigantha. And now we get a 2-for-1 the good old-fashioned way here from Sam Pardee. He gets to use Fire Prophecy to kill the 2/2 on the double block, and Gigantha is going to run over Lair of the Hydra. Still enough mana for Asika's Chariot. Sam Pardee has really affected the board a lot of times in a row here, and there's another forest off the top for Arne.
Oh, he's coming up onto this ranger class needs to find me a creature, and very quickly.
And it's Asika's Chariot. That'll have to sit there.
Yeah, can't play that off the top, but it does mean next turn you're going to get some good blockers. Yeah.
And there's the Edgewall Innkeeper finally showing up here for Pardee. But you know where I'm looking, Luis, is down at those Lair of the Hydra here for Sam. Does he have the ability to fire up one of those and get a big attack in? He's already crewed up the Chariot. Because right now it's triple 1-1, a 1-2, and a 2-2 for Huschenbeth. And Sam is highly incentivized to try to close out this game as soon as possible. He's going to forego 1 power on the layer so that he can cast Edgewall Innkeeper, it looks like.
Arne's going to have to start doing some chump blocks here. He does have enough mana to activate the Den of the Bugbear with that Jaspera Sentinel. So he's going to be able to throw that in the way. But we're getting to the point that we're not going to get to keep all of our Edgewall Innkeepers around.
Right, and there's no good double blocks for the 5/5s. You know, you would lose both creatures if you did so, if you're in Arne's seat. Wow. Arne looks like he's starting to really feel the pressure here. He just needed another adventure creature over the course of the last, 3 turns. And instead, Sam Pardee's just been like, I don't know, Gauntlet, Asika's Chariot, play a 5/5.
Sam did crew the Asika's Chariot with 6 power. I'm not sure what the deal was there, but
did he really?
Yeah, 2 tokens and the Jaspera Sentinel in the 1/1. But he's gotten Arne to a point where Arne is going to draw and play Chariot, but I think he needs to draw something under that as well, and it's another land.
It's another land. Incredible here. Arne Huschenbeth looked like he was in prime position to take down this opening game, and look at that. Another Asika's Chariot here for Sam Pardee.
And now Sam's looking.
He's looking at those layers, right?
Yeah, it's like, do I want to make another layer of the Hydra and have more on the board now, or do I want to play Chariot and be basically kind of set up for next turn?
Because look, now we have to recognize that Arne has gone from 3 Edgewall Innkeepers down to 1, and if Sam can especially force that one to get into combat here and take it out, okay, fine, you can have an adventure creature. It's too late for that now.
Sam looks like he's 1 point of damage short here, by the way, if he crewed up the Lair of the Hydra and sent it in. Or activated it, rather.
Looks like he's going to activate it for 2. This is a nod to being able to win next turn.
He couldn't win this turn, so I think this is probably the best. It still puts a lot of pressure on Arne, but then you play the Chariot post-combat, and that is likely enough to overwhelm him.
Yeah, what is Arne going to need to see? He's going to draw the land for the turn, and then see multiple creature? It's hard to imagine at this point that he can get back out of this.
Well, he does have that Rangers class, so if he can keep that Innkeeper and string together a very perfect set of draws, it's possible. Yeah. But given that he's going to be at 2 facing down a Chariot just worth of creatures, yeah, maybe there's not even literally anything, even if he stacked his deck.
Right, the mana is, and there it is, finally a Bone Crusher Giant on top of the library with the Edgewall Innkeeper sitting there. He gets to cast it. There's an Embercleave. And that's certainly not what he wants to see. Is there another creature? No, it's another land. Shatterskull smashing, and real heartbreak here for Huschenbeth. And look at that, stomp off the top makes it
there
easy
we go.
For Sam Pardee, who's going to pick up game number 1 the good old-fashioned way, just by top-decking a bunch of power and toughness, putting it on the battlefield, and sending it into the red zone.
That's
wow,
just
what
one of those
game
games
for Sam.
It just feels so good to win, because you basically lost, and instead you're just gonna, you just managed to fade him having a single other adventure creature for turn after turn, before, and you ended up grinding him down.
Wow, I cannot believe that Sam won that game. And you know, you got to wonder if that same great feeling that Sam has where he really feels like he got away with one here works against Arne. I mean, you had to feel if you're an Arne seat like, okay, I got this one. I don't really need that much to go right for me. It's not like I need some specific top deck. I just need any adventure creature to propel me into the late game. And instead it was a lot of lands for Arne. That has to be frustrating. Lots of pressure on our players here, primarily just because if they can pick up the match here, they're going to be playing at the World Championship. And, you know, you want to just close that out right now. Now, if they do lose, they're going to drop down and kind of become an M-boss for the Eliminator bracket. And great, you know, you still get another chance at it. So it's not all doom and gloom, but goodness sakes.
Well, you know how I kind of like went through how the top 12 players were feeling, and it's actually we even had Alpha Frog, Gavin Thompson in the chat kind of confirm that what I described. Mm-hmm. I can give you a little insight to how the upper bracket players are feeling, because it's actually a very different mental state. You come in knowing that if you just need to go 1-1 to get to Worlds. Well, guess what the fail case is when you don't get to Worlds? That means you went 0-2.
Right.
You it's going to be hard to sleep at night for the players that if they from the upper bracket, if they lose their first match and then lose their second match, it's a tough pill to swallow, knowing that you just needed to win 1 out of 2 matches to get to Worlds. Just one. You had to go 0-2 to miss. And yeah, that definitely happens, and the highs and the lows are part of what makes high level Magic so fun. The stakes are real. You care very much. But I can tell you that these players are going to feel very different mentally if they miss Worlds than someone who came in the top 12 and went 1-1 or 0-1 in the lower bracket.
Sam Pardee feeling like he got away with one here, and this time he actually had the answer early. The Fire Prophecy for the opposing Edgewall Innkeeper. Now, there is another one on the battlefield here for Arne, but as you can see, Sam has jumped out to a very quick lead, and it's really very much up to Arne to try to scrap back into this.
Yeah, this is a perfect start from Sam. The double Jaspera Sentinel into Fire Prophecy plus Lovestruck Beast. This is putting Sam in a position where he's going to get to cast a Showdown of the Skulls when, the board looks fairly good for him. This, a Crow and War, of course, is going to complicate things.
That's right. A Crone War here from Arne is going to steal the Jaspera Sentinel. And now we're going to see Showdown of the Skalds here for Sam Pardee. This could be huge for him trying to take that step towards the World Championship. And he's going to see, 3 lands and a Bone Crusher. Not the best showdown.
The second mode of Showdown of getting +1/+1 counters is a pretty big game.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, he still gets to smash here. 5 damage coming across. Edgewall Innkeeper has no interest in jumping in front of the Lovestruck Beast, so down to 14 falls Arne. Now we see Chapter 2 go up on the Akroan War. A couple of powerful 4-mana sagas going at it.
And Arne's had his Innkeepers all dressed up and nowhere to go 2 games in a row now. Just no adventure creatures on the horizon. Not really in a position to use Embercleave here. Arne may just have to pull the trigger and just play an early Ox, which you're not thrilled about doing, but what is his other play? I guess he could cast Shatterskull Smashing and kill the 1/2 and the 1/1, but the problem with that is if you kill a 1/1, then the Lovestruck Beast can't attack, so the Akron Ward doesn't kill it. It's actually a really awkward position.
Yeah, that's really tough. He is going to go for the Ox of Agonis and just empty out his hand. Now, he did reload here pretty well with Burning Hands, Lovestruck Beast, and a Forest. And yeah, that Edgewall Innkeeper is going to get chippy here. Come in for just 1 knock. Sam down to 18. Showdown. Second chapter goes, but here comes Stomp. Remember, this is a known card here to Arne as well. Sam looked like he wanted to go from one of the smaller creatures, maybe even the Sentinel here, but he has slowed his roll a little bit here. He's going to take a longer look at the board state and figure out how he wants to approach this.
And I want to highlight the fact that Arne chose not to steal Lovestruck Beast, and you frequently have seen players make this play with a Chrono War, taking a small creature instead. That's because it's hard to kill Lovestruck Beast when you're the one who has it, but when you leave them with a beast, and the beast has to attack, the Chrono War kills it. Sam made a really clever play here, though.
This is cool. Yeah.
He put a +1/+1 counter on his 1/1. Now his Lovestruck Beast can't attack, so it means that it's going to be safe from the Chrono War.
Now, he probably wants to put the counter on the Sentinel here. Yeah, there he goes. And he's loading up counters on the Zeraga Sentinel the Jaspera Sentinel, because it has disparate power and toughness. It doesn't actually die to that third chapter. And as we see, minimal value there from Arne, beautifully played by Sam Pardee, to set that up and maintain his Lovestruck Beast. Now, he does have a problem. he still needs to find a 1/1 to get it going. I guess he has a lair? Yeah, that would work.
Yeah, the lair giving Lovestruck Beast the motive to attack is a pretty strong play, and that is one that's come up a number of times here.
But even then, he would much rather have that Lovestruck Beast on the battlefield, unable to attack, and give himself a chance to draw it later. Here comes Bone Crusher.
And remember, Shodan of the Scald's third chapter is still in effect. Sam has gotten max value from that, and now I think he's going to go on the offensive, because against an Ox of Agonis, you don't have forever, because if you trade too many cards, the Ox comes back and all that. But Sam very much in the driver's seat, thanks to those Jaspera Sentinels leading to a lot more early plays. And then, of course, that Shodan of the Scald's kind of the heavy hitter here.
Yeah, you see Burning Hands in hand here for Arne. Probably going to look to take down that Giant Killer. Cute play here from Sam, attacking with a 4/5 into a 5/5. Because he has an instant available. He has Bone Crusher Giant. He can stomp and go ahead and go for it here. But this really does force the issue here on Arne to use Burning Hands to maintain his Lovestruck Beast. And that means that Giant Killer gets to stay on the battlefield. And he can use it to handle that Lovestruck Beast. Not that it can attack right now anyway. Ooh, Garruk Unleashed is going to hit the battlefield, though. And make a 3/3 Beast. As well as Ranger Class, but that's just going to make the 2/2. So good turn here from Arne. And we're going to see Giant Killer tap down something. Looks like it's going to be the Lovestruck Beast. And let's see what Sam can find. Off the top of the library is Showdown of the Scalds, number 2.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly when you want to draw it. Yeah, Sam has 6 lands in play plus a Sentinel, and while Arne does have Ranger Class and Garruk on board, so Sam doesn't have in forever to mess around, Sam still has a pretty good shot on board here.
Wow, Showdown of the Scalds, just perfection here for Sam Pardee. This could give him the tools that he needs. Let's see what he finds. Whoa, that's a lot of action. Lovestruck Beast, Giant Killer, Wilt, and Fire Prophecy, all spells. He's got 2 lands in hand, too, so he's not missing land drops for the next couple of turns either.
These are an excellent suite of spells, and Sam's going to be able to take out the 3/3 Beast here, and then likely set up an attack that kills Garruk thanks to the Giant Killer.
And he discards a land to the Fire Prophecy, but finds another one. Just wants to make sure that he still has white mana available so he can get Giant Killer active, or keep it active. And we see both creatures coming in to kill Garruk. Garruk only lasted for 1 turn, made 1 beast token, which died immediately. Another huge pendulum swing towards Sam Pardee, who seems on the verge of a qualification here, Luis.
It's going to be hard for Sam to not win this game. I think Arne is staring down the barrel of needing to win, his now eliminator match, because Sam is in good position. He's ahead on board. He's about to untap with Chapter 2 of Shodan of the Scalds and 4 cards ready to play, plus his draw step. He's got the home stretch ahead of him. They've been playing all weekend for this moment. Let's see if Sam can close it out here.
Just an incredible season for Sam Pardee if he's able to close out this match. Wins the set championship and now could find himself playing at the World Championships and qualified for MPL. And that was coming in as a challenger too.
Sam started the year with no qualifications or, real aspirations. But as the season went on, he was able to win a set championship, which is already a fantastic accomplishment. And then here, just completely dominating the challenger gauntlet.
Arne Huschenbeth, you can see the concern on his face as he knows he's in huge trouble at this point, and he's going to have a hard time working his way back out of this. And that means he's going to need, once this one's over, if Sam takes it down, Arne's going to have to shift his focus. In the meantime, though, big time damage coming in here from Sam Pardee, a Bone Crusher, a Love Struck, and a Espera Sentinel, but it's got 2 counters on it. Coming in for 12. We're going to see Lair of the Hydra get fired up to trade off with Bone Crusher or do some type of double block or multi-block.
Man, the more cards you can trade off, the closer you get to Ox of Agonis here. But things are looking grim. Sam's going to follow up this turn with at least 1 more spell, probably 2. Get some more counters off Shodan of the Scalds. It's not looking good. You even have to play around mid-combat Wilt on Ranger class, distributing a +1/+1 counter thanks to that showdown.
Curious to see how much Sam Pardee prefers to not put cards in the graveyard when possible from Arne. And it looks like he's going to add 2 more creatures and 2 more counters before passing the turn back to Arne Huschenbeth, who's fallen down to 5 life, and he's facing down 6 creatures here.
He's got to keep playing. I mean, the stakes are too high to just give up. But these are one of those games where you'll do your best, but I don't think Arne has a whole lot of hope here. Even the perfect Ox setup would be tough.
He finds Magda Brazen Outlaw, Shatterskull Smashing, and a Craig Crown Pathway off of that Ox play.
If he wants, he could smashing down one of the giant killers. That's the other thing you got to remember. Those 2 giant killers, Sam hasn't even been using them because he has so much other gas. Once he stops having spells to play, they start tapping down Arne's team. Sam's got this in the bag. This is actually one of the delightful parts of a match when you've won it, but you got to play out the last couple turns. It just feels really good.
Oh, it does. The best is if you're a control player and it's going to take like 6 turns and you just get to run it out. Here, though, Sam Pardee can see the finish line coming up, and he's really close to it because he has a dominating board presence here. And Arne, wow, and there's the Seeka's Chariot now off the top of the library to keep it going. Although, are we just going to see Sam go for the win right now? It looks like he's going for it.
Oh, yeah, it is party time. Sam is going for it. He's going to do his best to just get as many creatures on the board. You get as many +1/+1 counters off of his Shodan of the Scalds. And Arne can block 2 creatures, 6 damage goes through, and that's game for Sam Pardee.
Wow, congratulations to Sam Pardee. Puts his hands up in the air. What a season for him. Picks up a set championship, and now he'll be playing in the World Championships as well. Congratulations, Sam.